Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about Titans Season 2, Episode 4, entitled Aqualad. Right off the bat, this episode takes place about 5 years before the present day Season 2 stuff. So, if you're confused, that's about, I think it's a little less than a year before the flashbacks of Season 1, Episode 2, but I would say, it's a couple years after the flashbacks of episode 9. So Hawk and Dove origin episode takes place before this by about, I'd say, a couple of years. And then, but the season 2, the episode 2 flashbacks, where it showed Hawk and Dove and Robin in the alleyway in episode 2, that takes place about, I'd say, 6 months after this episode does. Anyway, it starts off with Deathstroke. He's on a mission, killing, I don't know what trial it is, it didn't say. There's a trial, he's killing all the witnesses, the lawyers, the judges, he's killing everybody. And there's one scene in particular where it shows this lawyer guy getting out of his car and it focuses on his license plate. And so I know that's some kind of reference, but I couldn't tell what it was. So if any of you know what that is, please tell me in the comments below. Anyway, so this whole scene's really cool. It's got upbeat music, and so it contrasts with the sort of, it makes it sort of look artistic the way he's killing all these people so fluently, I guess. And it ends with he stabs through the judge, and then he sort of whips his sword through the air, and there's blood that goes on the camera. Very nice. Anyway, so then he talks to William Wintergreen. He gives him his next assignment that takes place in San Francisco. So based on what happens later on in this episode, the Titans haven't met Deathstroke yet. But when he finds out that it takes place in San Francisco, he's kind of a little bit concerned. There's a pause. So I think that his family, Jericho and his wife, I'm forgetting his wife's name, but his son Jericho, in the comics is named Joey, but in the show his name is Jericho. They live in San Francisco. Rose isn't. Well, I don't know where she is right now. Or Grant. I don't know if he even exists in the show. But his wife and Jericho are living in San Francisco. So when he hears about that, he's kind of a little hesitant, but he takes up it anyway. And then we cut to San Francisco with Joey. Jericho. His name's not Joey in the show. So we see he's already had his throat slit. So he's lost his vocal cords, because in the comics, that happens. Yeah, it happens before Deathstroke fights the Titans, but so Deathstroke was in one of the wars, and so he comes back after the war. During the war he had some super soldier serum, and so he's all juiced up, and so then he kind of becomes a hunter, and then he's a bounty hunter, and then his sort of a competition finds out about his family, and so then they sort of attack his family, and his family's completely in the dark. They don't know. And so when Slade arrives at his house, they have Joey sort of they have a knife around his neck, and they give us money or whatever. I don't remember exactly what they wanted. But then Deathstroke figured he could move fast enough that he could stop him before Joey died. Well, he did, but Joey's vocal cords were severed, and so he can't talk. So that seems to maybe have already happened in the show, or something similar to that. It's already taking place because we see the scar on his throat. Anyway, we see in this opening scene that he's a very good cook, and in the comics he's very artistic. He paints pictures, and he's very artistic. So it seems like for the show that they made him a cook. And so his mom is sort of on edge about close the windows, we don't want to be seen. And she looks out the window, and Deathstroke's gone. And then we go to the car robbery scene. And this fight I really liked. It sort of reminded me of the fight styles and the scenes in season 1, sort of those kind of fight scenes. Because the season 2 fight scenes are good, but they seem a little kind of neutered in a way, not censored, but kind of less intense, if you will. So this scene's more like that. And we get to see our first look at Aqualad in this show. In this fight, we sort of get a hint that maybe him and Donna Troy have a bit of history, and we lean more into that later. And they get back to Titan's Tower, and they're having a party. We saw a little bit of this in the flashbacks of episode 3. We saw a little bit of that, and I talked about that in my episode 3 video. And then we get to see sort of, this is a little weird, and I forgot that this was a thing, that Dick and Dawn were in a relationship, and so it says later on in the episode that Hank and Dawn had a bit of a falling out. So in their origin episode, episode 9 of season 1, Hank and Dawn were together, but something they fell apart, and then Dick was now with Dawn. But then before season 1, they had a falling out, and she got back together with Hank. So it's a little bit confusing, but that's kind of what I'm piecing together. We talked about Dawn and Garth, and so Dr. Light. Yeah, we get an introduction to him. He's fighting. I think he's like torturing one of his colleagues, former colleagues, maybe like I think they went to school together, and so yeah, we get a little bit of sort of Dr. Light action. He absorbs light, and he kills the guy. Here's the thing, so you notice the song that Dawn sings is the Happy Birthday song is not the one traditionally sung. That's because somebody owns the rights to that song, and so if the traditional Happy Birthday song appears in any movie or TV show, the producers would have to pay that person royalties. So that's why this song is slightly different than the traditional one sung at parties. And then Dawn takes a picture of them, and so we know that there was a Polaroid picture with Hank, Dawn, Dick, and Donna in season 1, and there was one. So this is not that, but it's something similar to that. And there's a lot of pictures of the original Titans, that kind of Polaroid style, that show up in the comics, and so this is kind of significant for that. And then there's the blackouts, which we saw in present day, which is connected to Dr. Light. But they didn't know that yet, because Dr. Light wasn't really a threat at this point. And then so we get some Dick and Dawn talking back and forth in the Batcave, and she's not the Batcave, it's the computer room of the Titans Tower. And so she says it's kind of like a cave down here, and he says, "Does this turn you on?" And she says, "No, don't be Batman." So that's kind of a key line to take away from this episode. There's a lot of sort of callbacks and lines in this episode, and that's one that you kind of want to remember, because later on they call back to it. And then so we get the candle scene where they're lighting. Donna and Garth are lighting candles, and Garth is trying to ask Donna out, but she's not interested. She has to return to Themyscira soon, so she doesn't want to get attached and then leave. And so she texts Jillian, and I don't know the significance of Jillian. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find anything that she's definitely Amazonian or Themysciran, but I don't know who she represents and if she's from the comics at all, or if she's an original character. And then Dr. Light and his goons attack the bank. Now they're going to get an activator switch battery kind of thing that his colleague had created for this weapon that could theoretically disarm nuclear warheads before they land. So if a nuclear warhead was launched, you'd shoot this laser at it, and that would apparently deactivate it or something. Yeah, so then Donna is at the art gallery, and so it's interesting because a lot of times Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, is often associated with art exhibits. Like in the movie, she works at the Louvre in Paris. So the art is sort of associated a lot with Themysciran characters. And it's funny because Jillian refers to the Titans as an indie rock group of vigilantes. So I thought that was funny. Yeah, and so we get a little more Donna and Garth action when they're going through the camera footage at the bank. They talk about they were too young to drink champagne, so they had this special orange soda. They talk about like a clownfish and how Donna was looking for a clownfish. She's trying to find Nemo, which is a little weird because if you do the math, she would have been about 12. So that would have taken place around that scene we saw in season 1. So it seems like she was a little too old for Finding Nemo, but nonetheless, Garth had planted a clownfish in that area, so she would find one. Anyway, and then we get to find out a little more about Dr. Light, how he was failed. He was in a failed light manipulation experiment or whatever that gave him his powers. Like I said, the crash and burn Hank and Don thing, it doesn't really say, other than the fact that it crashed and burned. It didn't say how or why, and apparently it wasn't too bad because they got back together again. So Donna lies to Dick and says that she has to leave tonight. Jillian is putting her foot down and saying we have to leave, which we know isn't true. Jillian offered and says you can stay if you want, you can leave with me, whatever. But Donna's lying and saying Jillian says I have to leave now, which sort of gets the ball rolling into accumulates essentially in Aqualad's death later on. And then so we get this scene with the laser in the warehouse, and so but right before that we get a suit up scene with the 5. Oh wait, something important than I thought. So they said that Aqualad's been with the team for 4 months, and so that means we have at least this original Titans team for about 4 months at least. And so people are saying maybe there was a Roy Harper or a Wally West in there, and theoretically there could have been any of them, like Cave Boy, Omen, Bumblebee, or any of the original 12 members could have showed up at some point or another in that 4-month period, or maybe the team's been around longer than 4 months. But we know Roy Harper exists in this universe, so there's a little bit of precedent for maybe he showed up during this period. We don't know for sure. Anyway, so we have the 5 teaming, suiting up. It's kind of a cool scene. And they fight in the warehouse, and I don't know how I feel about this. It's cool, but it's kind of odd because Donna Troy whacks Dr. Light with the lasso a couple of times, and couldn't she just wrap him up in it and it'd be done? But I don't know. And then there's one scene I didn't know. So Dr. Light's shooting the light at Aqualad, and he kind of blocks it. And I didn't know that he had that power. Like, can he block nuclear? Because at this point, he has already absorbed the laser. So I don't know. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Can Aqualad block that? I don't know. Anyway, nonetheless, they fight him, and then Dick shoves his bow staff into like his arc reactor thing, and that shuts him down. And then they go back to the tower, and Garth and Donna make out, and then there's kind of this scene right after that where Dick and Garth are kind of miscommunicating. So Dick's like, "Did she stop by your room?" Because he knows that Donna Troy's already left, but Garth doesn't. So when Dick says, "Did Donna Troy stop by your room?" Garth's like, "Oh yeah, she did." And then Dick's like, "How do you feel?" And he's like, "I feel amazing." And then he's like, "Wait. No, she's leaving. And she didn't tell you that?" So anyway, this leads to Garth going to the airport. And I feel like this scene may be inspired by Casablanca a little bit. That famous scene at the airport in the very end of the movie. It's kind of like that. You should look it up, or at least watch that scene. And you can see the parallels a little bit. Anyway, long story short, Garth gets shot. And Donna decides to stay, and so we actually got flashbacks to Garth getting shot in last episode. We saw him getting shot. And so this is sort of raises a little questions about Jillian, because Deathstroke tries to shoot for Donna Troy as well, but Jillian throws like a ninja star and cuts the bullet in half. So I don't know who she is or like what her powers are, or if she is a character created for the TV show. Because then maybe they couldn't use Wonder Woman, so they just created this character, this Amazonian character. I don't know. Anyway, Donna Troy stays, and Jillian says, "Well, be careful, because vengeance is a dangerous path." And then we cut to the next scene where they find out who the killer was. It was Deathstroke, Slade Wilson. And then so, this is what I was saying about earlier. Dawn turns to Dick and says, "Be Batman." So earlier it was, "Don't be Batman." Now it's, "Be Batman. We're going to find this guy and we're going to make him pay." And so the final scene, it starts with someone thumbing through some records. and the first shot makes it look like almost like comic books. So that's what I thought it was. I thought it was a comic book store at first. The way he was kind of thumbing through those plastics, it looked like a comic book. Anyway, so then Dick trades Jericho one of the records, and he says, "Hey, I'll go over here and look at this signed record." And then this crazy final shot where Dick is smiling and Jericho turns his back, and then Dick frowns, and he gets all serious. And so it looks like they're going to kill him, or at least that's what it looks like. Like I was saying last week, I think that Jason Todd was abducted. I think it's a little too early for him to die. So I think it's kind of the same way. I think it's framing it to look like they're going to kill him, but they're not. Because remember in episode 2 of this season, Rose said that Jericho fell in with the wrong crowd and Deathstroke killed him. So I'm thinking that maybe that wrong crowd might have been the Titans. And so maybe at some point later on, like these flashbacks, we're going to get couple more flashbacks with the original team later on in this season. So I'm thinking maybe he might join the team at some point in the flashbacks, and Deathstroke might actually kill him. We don't know yet. I'm really looking forward to that. So, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Join our Facebook group, Casual Experts. We talk about movies, comics, TV shows, and music as well. I think that's it. Movies, comics, TV shows, and music. Video games. There's 6 video games. Link to that group is in the comments below. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at _LKX. Link for that's going to be down below as well. As well to our Patreon is going to be down there as well. So all those links are going to be down below. I'll see you next time.